Alright, so this unit, we're going to start with circles. We're going to start with the equation of circles. Oh, seems like Hector did not show up to class today. I see his empty seat. Hector, let's go back to our seat. Alright, so looking at today's work, like I said, we're going to look at equations. The equation of circles, the first thing, the first 10 questions, I'm going to give you guys information numerically. Then questions 11 through 20, I'll give you guys information graphically. And then the last 10 questions, you guys have to graph your circle. So looking at this, the information, I'm giving you guys the coordinates of the center of the circle. So the equation, we're going to write x plus 6 squared plus y minus 3 squared is equal to, notice that inside of the parentheses, I changed the signs of x and y. Notice how for x I had negative 6, I wrote plus 6. Notice how on the y I had a positive 3, I wrote minus 3. So on the values of x and y, just change the signs. Now for my radius, I'm going to put it at the end, and I'm going to write 49. And the reason why 49 is I squared the radius. So this sign in between the parentheses, let me emphasize which sign I'm talking about, that's always a plus. Like in between the parentheses, that's always a plus. Now the signs inside the parentheses is the opposite from what we have here. And obviously square your radius. And that's it. That's the answer for question number 1. If you guys have a graphing program, like in a computer program, graphing calculator or whatever, you guys plug in this equation, it will give you a circle center at negative 6, 3 with radius 7. Like that will give you a circle. Yes?
Why is it negative, or why is it positive?
We change the sign of the x and the y values. Now, let's take a look at question number 2. Like, it's that simple. 49 because I squared the radius. 7 squared. That's the equation. Yes. So I'm asking you guys just for the equation. That's it. Like it's. So now, for question number 2, the center is negative 13, negative 3. So for the x, I'm going to write x plus 13 squared plus y plus 3 squared. Once again, notice on the x and y, I changed the sign. In between the parentheses, there's always a plus. Since my radius is 4, I'm going to say 4 squared gives me 16. Once again, the number at the very end, it's the radius squared. Now, if my values, one of the values on the x or the y, one of the values was 0, then you don't have to do parentheses because x minus 0. Like, let's say my value of x was 0. I'm not going to go x minus 0 squared because x minus 0 is just x, right? So don't do anything to the x. I would just write x squared plus y plus 3 squared is equal to 16. Once again, this is if my x was 0. Because I'm just saying as an example, if x was 0, I don't do parentheses on the x. You're not going to go x minus 0. Now, that will help you guys, that hint will help you guys a little with question number 3. Now, any questions for the first 10? Number 4? All right. Let's take a look at number 4. We'll start with the easy stuff. X plus 7 squared plus y plus 10 squared. Now, the square root of 30 squared, the square root and something squared, you just cancel the square root. So square root of 30 squared is just 30. Because for that, if we think of it, we go square root of 30 times square root of 30 gives me square root of 900. 30 times 30. But then you think of 900, two numbers that multiply 900, I got there by multiplying 30 times 30. So the square root of 900 is 30. Okay. Any other questions for the first 10? Number 3? Okay. Looking at number 3, I'm just going to write x minus 1 squared plus y squared. I don't do parentheses on the y because I'm not going to go y minus 0. Is equal to 49. And that's it. Any questions on the first 10? Well, it is y squared. You don't have to do parentheses on it because you're not going to go y minus 0. Because, well, that y minus, if we do y minus 0, that would just simplify back to y. We're good on the first 10? All right, now let's take a look at number 11. I'll give you the information, but I'll give it to you graphically. We can see the center. The center's there. What are the coordinates of my center? What is it? 1, negative 3. Now looking for the radius, I'm going to go from the center to the edge of the circle. How big is that segment? 2. So the radius is 2. For those of you that are wondering how do you imagine, just imagine you move it up and you measured it. It's 2. The length is 2. Okay. So I gave you guys a center. I gave you guys a radius. I gave it to you guys graphically, but I gave it to you. Now the equation of this circle will be x minus 1 squared plus y plus 3 squared is equal to 4. I'm treating it like I did questions 1 through 10. Now, any questions up until number 20? Which one? 16? All right, let's take a look at number 16. We can see the center of the circle is there. What are the coordinates of the center? Negative 2, negative 1. Good. And then I'm going to say the radius is that long. How big is this radius? 2. So my equation will be x plus 2 squared plus y plus 1 squared is equal to 4. And then the 4, remember, I went radius squared. So that's how I got the 4. That was good. Yeah. Now let's take a look at number 21. For number 21, I give you guys the equation. You have to graph it. So now here, I'm going to say the coordinates of the center. The coordinates of the center are going to be 3, 4. Right, the coordinates of the center are 3, 4. Now for my radius, remember how this number after the equal sign is the radius squared. So for me to find the radius, let me do the square root of that. So square root of 1 is 1. Okay, so my center is 3, 4. My radius is 1. So my center, I'm going to graph it right there. 3, 4. Now since my radius is 1, I'm going to say from the center, let me go 1 up, 1 down, 1 to the right, and 1 to the left. I plot in 4 points, all of them 1 away from the center because the radius was 1. So if the radius would have been 3, I would have gone 3 up, 3 down, 3 to each side. And the reason why I did those 4 those dots, because it's easy for me to connect my dots. And I have an idea where the circle goes. So I'm going to say my circle looks something like that. If we're a little bit off, I'll be okay with it. If you guys laugh at my circle, don't worry, I get your paper later. So we'll be okay. Okay, so yeah, so looking at question number 22, what are the coordinates of the center? 0, 4. Good. And you guys said the radius is 2? So 0, 4 is there. So I'm going to go 2 up, 2 down, 2 to the right, and 2 to the left. And then connect your circle as best as you can. And let's assume that's a circle.
I'm studying for the reading CP3.
For 23? Yes. So yeah. Any questions? Even if I scroll down to question number 29. Was that what we're gonna ask? Okay, I'm pretty sure for 29 you guys can find the center, right? The center will be not hard. Let's take a look at the radius. How big is the radius? Well, remember, we don't go half of it. We go the square root of it.
I did it wrong. Did I do it wrong?
So,
I did it right.
so you guys get about 5.7, right? So whenever you guys are measuring it, right, you guys can find your center. So for 5.7, just go 5 and a little bit more. Like for example, we know our centered is 0, -1. So whenever you guys go, bless you, whenever you guys go there, whenever you guys are going to go 5.7, obviously just go 5 and so more. You notice how from the centered, I went 5 and a little bit more. You know, once you guys plot in your point, once you guys graph it, I'm not going to come and say, oh, that was 5.6, not 5.7. You got that wrong. I'm not going to be able to quite measure it. So that's why I'm just saying 5 and a little bit more. Like, I'm not going to be able to measure yours exactly. So I'm not going to expect you to be that exact. Okay. We're good? You guys are good for questions 31 and 32?
There's some.
Alright, let me take over.